Hello, everybody. Sunday Adelaja here. Now, we have all been in the coronavirus season of our lives, and some countries are on lockdown, and some people are feeling it one way or the other. Almost every nation, every country of the world is feeling the effect of the coronavirus one way or the other. Today, I want to talk about it in a more serious manner. I want to talk about coronavirus, the reasons, and the purpose. Is it possible to have a purpose for an epidemic like that, for pandemic situation that is so terrifying like that? Could something like that have a purpose? I think yes. First of all, I want to say that I'm not a believer in conspiracy theories. A lot of people believe that this is the elite of the world that want to use this to reduce the numbers of people, especially from Africa and world countries, that they want 10 million Africans to die or 100 million Africans to die or whatever. I don't believe in those conspiracy theories. Some people think that this is America that has released this upon the world. I don't believe it. And some people believe it is maybe from the laboratories, that some people might have done this to, to just change the world order, the new world order as they call it. Well, when I say I don't believe in it, that means that I don't use these conspiracy theories I don't allow them to guide my life or to control my life. But I also would not totally deny them. I would not say maybe it's not possible. It is possible that even if this is a product of some laboratories, I still want to believe that it is not specially released on the earth to destroy people. Maybe it was released by mistake. Maybe it was developed in some laboratories and released by mistake. But I don't want to believe that people are as evil as wanting to destroy one another like that. Yes, that has happened in history with World War I, World War II, Hitler and Stalin and people like that. But in this case, even if it is man-made, I think it will be by mistake. However, as a believer and a Christian myself, I would say that nothing happens without the knowledge of God. Yes, generally we could say any kind of tragedy of this magnitude is done by Satan. Satan is the author of all evil in most of the cases. But in some of the cases, it's not Satan that is to blame, it is man. Most of the evil that we see around us, it's not, people just blame them on God, but it's not God that's responsible for evil. God is not the God of evil. It's normally Satan or people. Most of the evil that we see around us actually is coming from people because of people's attitude. So we are the author of most of the tragedies, calamities, and even epidemics that we see around us. But then, so where is God in all this situation? Even if it is coming from people or is coming from Satan, we know that as a Christian that there is nothing that happens in life without God permitting it one way or the other. So where is God, and why did God permit this kind of thing to happen? Why would God permit evil, and evil of this magnitude? We have people that have died in their thousands. So where is God? Well, God would not allow anything if it will not be for our ultimate good. Remember that. Even if Satan is doing something, God will often stop him on his tracks if it will not be for the ultimate good of humanity. And even when men are doing things to destroy themselves, a lot of instances like that God had to put an end to such activities, so if it will not be for the eventual good of man. Now, if God has allowed this pandemic, yes, we might not see the reason right now. We might not see any good coming from it right now. But eventually, it is going to be for the salvation and redemption of the earth and humanity as a whole. If God allowed it, it is because it is somehow going to work together for good of humanity, of men, and of the earth. If God says that there is a dangerous tendency growing among people or from Satan, or even being planned by military authorities and laboratories of this world, and that these things could lead to a greater evil, if God sees that this will lead, anything, there is something that might be going on that we might not be aware of. There might be some conspiracies, really, that we are not aware of. There might be some plans of Satan that are being developed that we are not aware of. There might be plans for that could lead to a greater tragedy on the earth. There might be some plans that are being, or some conflicts that are going on in the world that could lead to World War III, or that could lead to greater evil or destruction of greater amount of people. Like maybe there are some there are some weapons of mass destruction that are being developed, or maybe there are plans for war, or maybe there are some things that could lead to the obliteration of a whole large number of people. When God sees something like that, because of the greater evil that that thing could cause, that is one of the reasons why God will allow an epidemic like this coronavirus, to be released upon the earth. Yes, it is released by Satan. Yes, maybe it is even released by man. But God will allow it to be released because God knows that if men are not stopped on their tracks at this point, that this will lead to a greater evil. So in such cases, then God will allow and give place to lesser evil, so that the lesser evil will cause men to have a second thought and to stop in their tracks of the evil that they are planning, or even let men learn some lessons from whatever little tragedy, or even to us it's not little, but compared to the magnitude that could have occurred, God will still allow us to learn some lessons and to prevent the greater evil that could have happened. So God intervenes in such a situation that evil or great evil could have occurred. Because, and the way he does it is to allow lesser evil, so that the less evil will help men to have a second thought and to humble men, especially to humble us and bring us closer to truth, to light, and to the Creator. There is another reason why God will allow, even if this evil is being released by Satan or by man, why will God allow it? There is another reason why God could allow such a tragedy. It is when humanity is already becoming too self-reliant and too self-confident. When men become too self-confident, they become like Nebuchadnezzar that say, oh, I am the one in control. I have built this, I've built that, I've built that. And who can stop me now? And when men begin to behave like that, they are on the way of destruction, not just of themselves, but they are on the way to bring destruction to a large number of people. So God has to step in and allow some little tragedy, calamities, epidemic or something like this to be released upon the earth through Satan, but so that, and eventually it will be for the good of men. When we think we are in absolute and total control, God could allow things like this to happen to let us know that we are only just human, and to bring us back to our true place. Then we realize and begin to become better, become human, and we begin to know and desire to know the one who truly is in control. God forbid that it is man who is in control of everything in this world. Oh, you know what happens when men are in control. When men were in control, you know what happened to the Jews in Europe. When men were in control, you know what happened to black people. Slavery. When men are in control, you know what happened to the Indians in Latin America. So sometimes when men have developed so much wings and muscles to begin to now assert their own authority that we're in control, God sometimes will allow things like this to happen to stop men in their tracks. Because when man is in control, that could lead to a massive destruction. By the way, have you noticed that since this epidemic started, that we have not been hearing too much about Syria. We have not been hearing too much about Turkey. We have not been hearing too much about immigration problems. We have not been hearing too much of Russia and the war in Iran, in Syria, and the war with Turkey that could happen. You see, so it's like, yes, this epidemic is an evil, and it's bad and it's dangerous. But can you imagine how much evil has been stopped on their tracks just because this now is a problem for everybody? Can you even imagine that we have not been hearing too much about the Palestinian and Israel conflict? Can you imagine that we have not been hearing too much about the building of borders between Mexico and America? Everything that he has been bringing about, even in Africa, we've not been hearing about xenophobia because nobody has time for that now. Everybody has to fence for themselves and try to think about their own survival. That is sometimes what we cannot understand in the doings of God or in the operations of God, why God would sometimes allow evil, allow less evil, so that the greater evil could be prevented. Now, some people are going to be very sentimental to what I'm saying and say, okay, why should I be saying things like this? What about people who have died? You know, people have lost their family members and you are trying to play philosophy about this thing. No, this is not philosophy. I'm just trying to bring understanding. I want to use this opportunity to express my condolences to all the families that have lost anybody in this pandemic. And, you know, but I want to also tell them that, you know what, even though we are suffering here and it's paining us that we've lost our family members, but eventually those family members that have died, they are actually in a better place. At the end of the day, they are in a better place. So, but maybe through their death or thanks to their death, humanity will be made to have a second thought and a lot of greater evil are being stopped right now, thanks to the death of these people. And we might be thinking, wow, how many people will have to die? Well, we've had thousands of deaths already. But in Second World War, we had millions of deaths. But if not because of those deaths, we will not even have humanity right now. But thanks to those deaths, even though we lost them, but thanks to them, we are alive now. Because, you know, other people would have there would have been other deaths or other wars. But because of the lessons of the previous war, humanity is being forced to stop on their tracks of evil. So the history of humanity has shown us that people have to die anyway, sooner or later. And just this is the way life is. That men or humans are such animals that it is death that teaches us the greatest lessons. When we don't have deaths, we lose control where we do anything we want. But deaths of people have taught us the greatest lessons. People had always needed to die so as to preserve the larger number of humanity. Everything we are enjoying today, let me just prove this to you. Everything you are enjoying today is as a result of somebody's death. If you are having cars and you are not having accidents, it's thanks to the fact that you have traffic lights, street light, traffic light. You know, traffic light was not introduced at first when cars were introduced. The reason why traffic lights were introduced is because people started dying as a result of accidents. There were no traffic regulations before, but it is death that brought that to our enjoyment today. And we are enjoying it today, and we are being preserved, lives are being preserved, but we don't even think about it, that it is thanks to the death that had been recorded due to cars. You know, we have, you know, some people say air flights and airplanes is the safest form of transportation. Well, it was not always like that. When planes are being developed, there were so many crashes and so many accidents and so many plane crashes. But because of the crashes, technologies were developed to lessen the amount of death and catastrophes and accidents. And thanks to those deaths that were recorded, that's actually why why we're having plane flights in the first place. Everything, like now, I'm under the light. You can see light on me, electricity. Do you know how many people were killed by electricity? And thanks to those deaths, cables were developed, technologies were developed that now reduces or makes people not to die so often from electricity anymore. The wars that we had, we lost a lot of people in wars, millions. But if not for those wars, we would not be having the peace that we're having right now. Look at the security system we have in the homes, fire, the incidents of fire. There was a time that fire destroyed the whole of London. Fire have destroyed cities and countries and nations and families. Thousands have died. Millions have died because of fire. That's why we have the fire brigade and fire security systems that we have in places. So everything you are having right now that you are enjoying, it is as a result of some people's death. So death is inevitable, either way. Either it is natural, or it is man-made, or it is Satan. But most of the time, we only learn as humans when tragedies like this happen. So what can we learn from this tragedy of coronavirus that is engulfing the whole world right now? Is there anything we could learn from the death so that the death of these people will not be in vain? Well, a tragedy like this is a sacrifice by those people who have died and those people who have fallen sick to save us from a greater danger that could have threatened the future of humanity, but also it is an opportunity for humanity to develop some vaccines, some medicines, and to find some solutions that will now bring about preservation of life to a large extent, or a greater number of people that will still live. The children and grandchildren of those people who have died, that their death will lead to some solutions to a greater amount of people. Take note that the result of this virus is to make people right now, even right now, people are already sitting down at home, staying put, stopping in their tracks. That is also some pluses right there. Those are already some blessings in disguise. You see, because humanity has become a slave to our ambitions and to our wants. Because of our desire to make money and because of our desire to make it in the system of this world, the capitalist system that rules in our societies, keep pushing us and keeps pushing people to rush, go to work, that there is no time to take a break. But see what is happening right now? Thanks to some virus somewhere, everybody has to sit at home. That way, God is letting us know that there is something that is more valuable than survival. There is something that is more valuable than Uncle Sam, than making a living, than making money. That we should not become slaves to work and slaves to needs and wants. So something has to, when men when men are sold out, that they have forgotten the most important things in life, things like this have to be allowed to make us have a break, to have a second thought, and to make us begin to think about what really matters in life. If you don't know, I will tell you that because of the pressure and the rush of the world that we are living in right now, that a lot of people, especially in the Western world, are suffering from depression. Millions of people are suffering from depression, and there is no cure for depression. Millions of people are committing suicide. Millions of people are falling sick, getting cancer and things like that because of the pressure of the world that we are living, especially things like depression that you cannot easily see. Stress, anxiety are destroying a lot of people. So that is why sometimes a situation like this, when you say, why would God allow it? Well, God is allowing it to preserve you too. God is allowing it to preserve your life so that you preserve your sanity. So now that we have all been forced to sit at home, we are being forced to have a compulsory vacation, to have a second thought, to think about things that are important, to think about your life, to pay attention to yourself, to pay attention to your family, to pay attention to other things that you have not had the time to pay attention to. But as a result of this speed and rush and the slavery to Uncle Sam, humans become like machines, even worse than animals. So a virus and a situation like this could be a blessing in disguise. It could be used by God to make us regain back our humanity. So thanks to coronavirus now, most of the world, almost all nations, even the capitalists themselves, have to stop and pay attention to themselves and to others. You've heard about distancing, social distancing. You've heard about quarantine. People have to stop and be isolated and be put in a state of solitude. And if you ask the whole world before this quarantine and before this coronavirus, how many people have practiced solitude? Humanity don't have time for solitude. We are rushing too much. But with this virus, we also can see that we could lose, we could lose ourselves, we could lose our lives, we could lose our family members, we could lose our friends and our neighbors if we don't obey the instructions. That's why there is an advantage that, okay, it's not just work, it's not just business, it's not just rush. These are our neighbors that we could lose. Let me begin to pay attention to them. These are my family members that I could lose. Let me begin to care for them. These are my friends that I could lose. Anything could happen. Let me begin to become more humane. So thanks to this virus, we could begin to realize that success is not everything, but that love, care, attention to one another are much more important than my own sense of self-glory. So take note that most things have come to a standstill. Not just in the developed world, it's going to come to standstill in Africa too. Right now, God is helping us have a mercy on Africa because we don't have the technology, we don't have the medicine to be able to fight it. So God is now releasing this upon us. At least it's coming to Africa now, but it's coming after Europe. So Europe must have had some experience so that we'll be able to fight it together. But everything is coming to a standstill. Whenever something like that happens, it shows that those things that came to a standstill, those things that we have to reject, those things that we have to stop doing, they were having a hold upon us. They were lording it over us. It means that things that were created to serve humans were now holding humans into captivity. They were now holding humans into bondage. In other words, those are the things that we need to stop. Those things that are for example, if we are being asked to sit at home, don't go to work. Those are some of the things that have been holding you in bondage. Those things that, rushing, going out everywhere, pleasure, entertainment, those things that are the things that you have become an idol, that have taken you captive, that you don't even know about. So those things that you have to reject and you have to stop doing right now, maybe you didn't know about it, but those are the things that were controlling your life indirectly. Work, money, pleasure, those things have to stop now so that you as a human, you will come out of the captivities of the creation. We are not supposed to serve creation. Creation was created to serve us. We are the kings of creation. So once we become servants and slaves to creation, God allows things like this to stop that process so that man will regain his place of dominion, of authority, and of self-awareness. So if you notice and you give it a deep thought, you will discover that some of those things that you have to stop doing right now, it is God that is using you to set you free from their domination. Because those things have become an idol in our lives. So they must take a back seat now. And then you must begin to give it a consideration to begin to put things that are really important first in your life. Because all things were created to worship. All things were created to serve us. All things were created to be used as worship to God. But when we begin to worship things that were supposed to serve us, things that were supposed to be serving God, when we become slaves to those things that we're supposed to master, then things like coronavirus will be allowed by God, even though it's been done by Satan or by man even. But things like this will be allowed so that it will take us back to our place where God has placed man to be. It will return us to things that are of greater values in our lives. There are greater values that are things that are more important than work in life. You say, oh, if I don't work, I will not eat. Yes, but you don't have to become the slave of work. There are things that are of greater importance in life than money. You say, oh, but money has strength all things. Yes, but we are not supposed to be slaves of money, because money is a good slave, but it's a bad master. Work is a good slave, but it's a bad master. Once you become the slave of work or the slave of money, they are bad masters. They will begin to dominate you and command you and send you up and down, that you will not even enjoy life anymore. You will not even realize the beauty of life any longer. Life becomes vanity. Sometimes even health. Some of us now, we cannot even go to the gym anymore, because some of us, we have turned gym, sports, to religion or to idol, that we are now coming under their captivity, instead of us to be the one to rule over them. Even religion, some of us cannot go to churches anymore. Why? Because religion has become a god. It has become an idol. Religion has replaced God. Church building has replaced God. Services, men of God have replaced God. So God has to break their hold upon us. God has to set us free from them, so that we will be set free from domination of the idol of religion, but that we'll be able to discover God one-on-one in personal relationship, so that everybody will be returned to their own fellowship with God the Father one-on-one, without worshiping religion, without worshiping church building, without worshiping bishops and pastors any longer. Even government have become like God and idols. So all those idols have to fall. The idol of religion will fall, and it's falling right now thanks to coronavirus. The idol of governments and states is falling. So thanks to coronavirus, the idol of sports is falling. Every high places that has exalted itself against the knowledge of God, against the values of creation, against the Creator Himself, are falling at this hour. And this is nothing. This is nothing. This is just a virus. Can you imagine what God could do if God arises? But God is using small, lesser tragedies like this, lesser evil like this, to return us back to the things that really matter. All idols must fall before the Creator, guys. All idols, all things that we have exalted above the knowledge of God, above even man that is created in the image and likeness of God, all these things will bow. And coronavirus is a means to turn them and return them to where they were supposed to belong, to return them under the domination and dominion of man, and to bring man back to his place of preeminence, and to bring God back to his place of preeminence. So man is the crown of creation. Man is not supposed to be dominated by all these things, by work, by money, by things that are created. No, they are supposed to serve us. We are not supposed to serve them. So please take your time. This season of coronavirus, take it as a time of reflection. Take it as a time of rest. Take it to be a time to stop still and to reflect. Take it to be a time of solitude. Take it to be a time to discover, a time for self-education, a time to discover truth, a time to discover love, a time to pay attention to the people that are around you, a time to pay attention to the people that are precious to you, a time to pay attention to yourself, a time to review your priorities, your relationships, especially your relationship with God and your relationship with man too. A time to reflect about eternity, that life will come to an end on this earth one day. People are dying, but each time we see death around us, we should be able to think about our own death as well and reflect that one day I will be dead. Where am I going? Let's think about eternity. Think about people in your life. Take care of yourself, take care of your health, take care of people around you. Put your priorities right and don't let them be moved again by any of the pressure and of the system and Uncle Sam. Now, there has been in our world today the superiority of nations. You see, nations are building walls to say other people are inferior, even though we are all made in the image and likeness of God. Some people want to lock out other people because they are poor. In Europe, Europeans, Italians have said, stop rescuing black people who are trying to come into the Mediterranean Sea. Because if you rescue them now, even the rescuing operations and the humanitarian organizations that try to rescue them, they now prohibit them. If you rescue them, you are going to go to jail. So when men begin to think that they are in control, when we humans begin to think that we're in control, God allows some things to happen to return us to where we really belong to, that we are not in control. So all those superiority of nations, God didn't create borders. God didn't create borders. It is men that create borders. Forgetting that there was a time that those same Europeans were going to Africa to look for survival. Now that Africans are trying to come to Europe to look for survival, now it is, they put a block, they put a border, they prohibit them to say, no, wait. Once humans and nations begin to make it a little bit and they think they are comfortable, they want to shut other people down, forgetting that we're all children of God. We are all made in the image and likeness of God. Look at America. Americans right now had to be traveling to Mexico to buy toilet paper, not even food, toilet paper, because of coronavirus. And it is this same America that was building wall to lock them out. They never could thought that there would be a time when they would need Mexico. So I think that when tragedies like this happen, is to also bring sense to governments, to nations, that the superiority and pomposity of nations and above other nations should stop. And we should have the second thought, that we are all equal by birth and we are all equal by death. That's one of the lessons of this coronavirus. All people are dying the same way. Europeans are dying the same way poor Africans are dying. Americans are dying the same way poor Iranians are dying. We are all equal in birth and we are equal in death. And even if it's going to take things like this, the coronavirus, to teach humanity these things, sometimes God will always allow things like this to happen so that we'll come back to our senses. The building of walls against poor nations must be reviewed. We must begin to stretch hands to one another, the hands of love, rather than demarcation. Because right now, thanks to this coronavirus, you know what happened? European Union and Italy started begging nations of the world to come and help them. And you know, one of the first countries that has come to help Italy and Europe, that has sent in a whole full plane of doctors, it is a country that we have been taught, that the whole world have been taught, that Europe has taught us to hate and to dislike and to humiliate. Small country that looks so insignificant, a country that Europe had laughed on, Europe and America have laughed at for so long. We have mocked them. The country of Cuba. We have laughed at and we have demonized their country and their leader. See, tragedy makes everybody equal. Tragedy is an equalizer. Coronavirus has equaled everybody. Everybody has been humbled. Europe now is asking for help. Yes, just yesterday we used to think that only Africans are capable of asking for help. Now Europe has to ask for help. And black Cubans and white, brown Cubans are now coming, and it is Italians that are now meeting them at the airport and clapping for them as if they are saviors who have arrived. One day, I'm afraid Americans might be running and kneeling on their knees to beg Mexicans to come to their aid as well. That's why no nation should be humiliated. No people should be humiliated. We should all, first of all, be thinking that we are all humans. You know, when this tragedy of coronavirus started in China, you know that Europeans and Americans and people all over the world were laughing at Chinese. We were laughing at Chinese. We were saying because they are eating raw food and they are eating all kind of reptiles, that's why this has happened to them. And we're saying that is just China. China that is backward. China that is communist. China that is this. China that is this. That is China. Now, every country in the world is begging China to give them instructions and prescriptions on how to fight this disease. China now is helping Europe, America, and helping everybody. Tragedy is a leveler sometimes. Calamity is a leveler sometimes. So why would God allow things like that? Because He is God, He's wise, He knows better. Even Africans, I saw a video where in Italy now, they were awarding Africans some, thank you awards and some appreciation award. They were giving appreciation to Africans who are living in Italy. Why? Because those Africans, because all the Italians, most of the Italians, they are afraid of contacting this thing, and some of them were dying. And Africans stood out and went to risk their lives to help their Italian people. And now these same Africans in that same Italy that have been looked down upon before, these same Africans that have been even chased away from the street or beaten or humiliated by the police, these same Africans are now being awarded and rewarded and being appreciated because they show humanity. You see, tragedy is showing us that we are all humans. So let's make the earth a better place thanks to this coronavirus. Let's come back to the qualities of our Master. Let's come back to the qualities of God. Let's come back to a place of pure love, love for truth, love for humanity, love for God. Let's come back to the qualities of our Savior, and Savior who gave His life for us. Let's begin to give our lives to one another. Recently, there were signs in the heavens and the skies of China. And people saw it as a sign of God talking. In the midst of the coronavirus, there were signs in the skies of China. God is trying to get our attention. Not just the attention of China, the attention of all nations. So that we'll begin to look up to the hill from where cometh our help. Because when those signs were coming up in the sky, everybody had to look up to the hill. They have to look up to the sky from where the help comes. And it is time, and it's a sign for all nations to come back to the one who created them and to the only one who can help them. And I thank God that there are some nations that have started responding to this. The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Brazilian President, the Prime Minister of Italy, they have all released a worldwide call for prayers that only God could help us, that all of us should begin to pray. And I'm sure that all nations and all presidents and prime ministers right now will begin to know that we are all humans, we are limited, we are not gods yet, and that it is time to go back to the source from where we all came from. All nations must yield to this cry for prayers, and all nations must begin, and all peoples must begin to look for the Master that says that if we will confess our sins, if we will humble ourselves, confess our sins, and turn away from them, that He is faithful to hear us and to heal our land. For the love of God, church and nation. Peace. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Now, we need to spread this word and we need to do it together. For that to happen, we need your help. Just 5 little steps that you could help us to spread the word. Number one thing we need you to do is to like the videos. Please go like this video right now. Number two, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Number three, we need you to press and click on that notification bell. You see the bell? Go press on it. And number four, we need you to go comment. Write your comment, good or bad, just write what you feel. Number five, share on every platform. Share on Instagram, share on Facebook. Just share and spread the word. Thank you so much. All right, bless you.